And back. Okay.
Okay, so his microphone, you will switch it on.
It's on?
Okay.
Раз, раз.
Okay, so we are ready to start two last sessions, the last but not the least. Great speakers. So the first one to start is Valentin Merslin from Creative Mobile. Let's welcome him on stage. Small guy.
Thank you everyone for coming. Not so many people survived all the show. I actually want to say thank you for the organizers that invited me and invited everyone here. It's a great event, and I didn't expect for the first show in Greece to be such an amazing. And I'm glad to be here. I'm a little bit tired of after 2 days of surviving through the Hellenic hospitality and all these sleepless nights and local drinks. Probably will never forget it. Anyway, take a seat. I'm going to talk about very basics of relationships between developers and publishers. I've been on both sides of this battle or partnership. I started my career in game industry in 2004 when I first published my game. Actually, it was a game developed by my friends in Russia. It was a typical retail deal with, I don't know, 30,000 copies sold. So it was a pretty good result. So I started all the 10 games trend in Russia. So probably if you know games like a War of Tanks, they've been just following me. In 2005, I joined a small publishing company called Alawar. It was focused on the PC games and a casual market, working on hidden objects or titles like Farm Frenzy. We published nearly 250 projects for the few years. And I was doing distribution, working with overseas partners, sort of like 72 of them. I quit in 2011 and started my own company in Belarus. It's a small country next to Russia. We were lucky to launch 5 mobile games on 4 platforms. One of these platforms was technically not mobile. It's a VK, it's a social network that's now owned by Mail.ru, and our next speaker will tell us more about it. One of these titles gained almost 1,500,000 installs on mobile platforms, and it was pretty successful free-to-play game, mocking Russian government and Putin and all these guys. So we've been very trendy in 2011, 2013. In 2014, I moved out of Russia and Belarus, and now I live in the European Union and I'm able to join for this session. I work for Creative Mobile. It's an Estonian company founded by fantastic guys. It's still privately owned by four people, and the company started in 2010 as a developer of mobile games. It's still self-funded. It became famous for the drag racing series, the single title that got more than 100 million downloads in less than a year. We actually started the game genre of drag racing, and CSR Racing was technically copying our game and joined it with a nice engine and launched it on iOS. So since then, we published more than 30 games and started publish third-party titles in 2013. Right now, company employs about 100 people. For the country like Estonia, it is equal of the company like 150,000 people in China, something like that. You probably realize that comparison. Anyway. Why we still need publishers, why publishers need developers, that's what I'm going to talk about. Years ago, publishers were everything. They were putting your game on shelves. They were paying for the placements. They were doing all that merchandising, the PR, all these road shows and so on. But situation was changing over the years with the digital distribution rise, with the Facebook, with the social games. It was a window of opportunity so wide that everybody could walk in and become a millionaire, technically, if you just, you would be qualified enough to develop some game, you would start making money. And app stores were rising. They were featuring everyone who was just a little bit, provided some level of quality. And Steam was doing the same. They give you all this, million of banner impressions just for the start. And if the game is trendy, you'll get more and more traffic. You're making more money. That was a rise of self-publishing, and there was a change of rules from the original 15 or 10% royalties that developers were accounting for. They were getting 70% share of the money paid by customers. So publishers felt doomed, and it was like apocalypse of publishers. But 5 years later, what do we see? If you're going to self-publish a game, there is a high probability that customers will never find it in the store. Discoverability is a huge problem. There is a fierce competition. There is tons of mergers and acquisitions. So the market is dominated by few players that never change. If you take a look at the top grossing charts, you will see the same names, same games for the months. And as a good example, 67% of all revenues from mobile platforms goes to top 10 publishers. That's, it's a huge inequality between the ones who are able to spend money to acquire users and the ones who are just making games and starting their career in gaming industry. So now, and the same thing happened with Steam. Actually, with the introduction of the Steam Direct, you might see that the thousands of games appear in Steam every month, and that means for you that you're not able to get this traffic that you counted for anymore. You've been working on your game for 2 years, and instantly you have chances to earn what, $10,000? That's why we actually think that the publishers are still can play a major role in helping developers to get the attention they deserve, to get a chance for your game. Publishers may be different. I don't want to get into details, but when I talk about the dinosaurs that can survive all the years, they hold the major IPs that have tons of money, and they mostly develop their companies by acquiring new ones, like EA buying Chilingo, or Nexon buying other companies, or even Activision Blizzard. Seagulls it's rather small publishers that publish whatever they able to catch on the market. So they just play the game of chances. When they take the game, send it to the App Store, try to pitch it to the Apple or Google for featuring, and that's it. They don't do anything else. They do not invest any money or efforts into promoting the game. They just want to get a 50% of the share of your revenues. Cybers and golems, it's kind of category that I put most of the Asian companies into, like giant Japanese corporations buying other companies and investing a lot into the way to the market. They're trying to build some games for the Western markets. They're not really successful, but they successful into acquiring successful Western companies, and that means that pretty soon they will be ruling all the world. What is left is actually very friendly and open human partners that might be an ideal publisher for you. And of course, Creative Mobile is one of them. That's and among other companies. So what publisher brings to the table? When I was working on this slide, probably I was hungry, and as many other developers are, they're pretty hungry to bring their game to the market. So publishers usually can help you with in the areas you're not really you don't have much experience in, like a classic PR and media package, quality assurance, customer, community management, all the localizations that can cost a fortune depending on the game. The most interesting part is actually the traffic. I put it in there between two buttons. So it's got to be cross promo from existing channels, user acquisition, or some platform relationships. Sometimes it's funding, and some developers actually looking only for funding, but we're not in Netherlands, so if you just want to get some fries with mayonnaise on top, you got to go to some funds. Anyway, let me talk about that a little in detail. Traffic is the thing that actually we are looking for, and everyone is looking for some extra traffic to get us some visibility for the game. Publisher accounts in the store already in a better position than the newly opened accounts. They have better ratings, they have tons of games published over there with good ratings as well. They have more chances for the cross promo. They hire professional app store optimization specialists. They work with media that also helps with traffic. They work with community. They're able to build the communities around the game right before you actually launching it. They work with streamers. They work with YouTubers or guys on Twitch to drive new customers to work on the loyalty. And of course, the important part is a paid user acquisition. If you go to any other game shows, you will see that many booths are occupied by marketing agencies, not just monetizing companies, but the companies who are actually trying to sell you traffic, who's eager to get your money. And to choose one of them can mean that you either lose all your money or just get a really quality customers. And the platform relationships is one of the core features that publishers offer, because they're able to talk about quality traffic coming from the platforms. If you get your games featured, you will probably get at least from 100K to 1 million installs in a week. That means that you just saved few $1 million in alternate costs of the paid acquisition. And of course, it means that you actually able to expand to other platforms, not just talking to Apple or Google. You can get some deals from Microsoft or Amazon or Valve. This means a lot. If you know some managers who is responsible for featuring you in a Steam, you can actually you're already in a better position than many of developers who just started. They pass into the game. Very important thing is that publishers are willing to share their expertise in free-to-play or just in a game design, depending on what kind of game you have. They can help you to ease an onboarding process, to share some tricks about how to make your game better in terms of monetizing users without sacrificing the loyalty or something. They can tweak monetization to the audience they have, because it may depend on geography or casual games and mid-core games are monetized different ways, and they can tell you what metrics are right or which are wrong. They can actually do some math. Publishers can help you to go beyond the App Store. They can help you with new markets. They can find you local partners in Asia or in Middle East or in other developing regions that can bring you enough money to not just cover your expenses, but guarantee a future. They can tell you which alternate stores are worth going into with your game. Because if you want to try everything else, you just will spend weeks embedding new SDKs without significant returns. And they can talk to new platforms. If you're successful on Steam, they can help you to go to consoles, and that's maybe a new page in the life. But why publishers might be interested in your game? All right, it's just some mix of slides. It is just random numbers. Because we have more than 500 requests that we get in during the year, but that's more or less reflects the ratio between the requests that we receive, the candidates that we think are good for weekly reviews, and what left after these weekly reviews is just a few 6 good candidates. We start negotiating process, and maybe 3 or 4 games are actually going into soft launch. I'm here talking about the mobile games with a free-to-play mechanics. Of course, for the games on Steam, our rules are a little bit different, but the idea is the same. Every publisher receives a lot of requests, a lot of games for the review, and there is no guarantee that your game will become a hit or will be selected by the publisher. And the most interesting part is that the producers inside of publishing company actually have a choice. If they want to spend time working with third-party game that they just received from unknown developer, or they can allocate the money for the in-house development or second party, and maybe create a game they were dreaming about, not something that just receives. So how you can increase your chances to be seen and noticed by a publisher? What publishers are looking for? As every VC, they look into the same. They look for the great product, for the great team, and great potential. But get into the details. Publisher is looking for the great game, means that they want to see a good idea behind it, or just a good execution. The game may be bad. It might have great visuals, but we can help you with setting up core gameplay. If you have a fantastic core gameplay, we still can sell it, and we can help you to adjust your visuals to industry level. But of course, if we get in a combo of a great idea, great visuals, and a fantastic execution, a smooth gameplay, you probably won't hesitate to call you during the night and say, "Hey, why don't you just come to our office and sign a deal?" On the early stages, publishers say that what we're looking for should be publishable or fundable. But of course, we want to be sure that if we start working with you, we will see the final product. And so we're looking into the experience of the team. If the team is going to survive through that, we're looking for the experienced game designers that they know what to do. They are ready to listen to the feedback from producers. They're ready to change something in the game, and then do not expect that producer from the publisher will join the team and write a game design document for them. We don't need another outsourcer. We don't need a company that just wanted their hours to be paid by someone. We want a partner that will be willing to work on your game, actually with us together as a team. And of course, we expect that developers will follow some rules. They will have some processes set up in the company. Some task tracking, all the classic IT infrastructure that is mandatory nowadays. We want you to have a pipeline, we have an idea of how long it will take you to complete the game, and be realistic about your ability to follow this timeline. Just you need to execute it in time. The fact that we call financial transparency, it's not about not paying your taxes. It's more about you understanding how the cash flow works. We want to make sure that whatever you estimated will help you to survive through the process of of development of the game. We want you to finish a game and publish it and wait for 2 more months until we get the first royalty from the App Store and pay it back to you, because we need you to make updates every 3 weeks. We want you to work on the DLC if it's a premium game on Steam. And of course, if you attach a good presentation to it, that would be great, because it shows that you clearly understand what your project is about, how we can position it, what is the timeline, when it's going to be ready, what kind of features you're going to implement pretty soon. And of course, everybody loves to see some core loops in a game. So just show us some cool art, and we're happy. If you have a free-to-play monetization model and you know how to squeeze your customers, so it's going to be a payment pay gates or something that is going to be in a game economy. You just need to understand how you're going to make money, and we can criticize it and maybe give you some advices, but still we need this come from you. If you're working on a premium title on a PC game, or maybe a premium for mobile platform, which is weird, you still need some good USPs. It's got to be either story or art, or a combination of both of this. And because story, that's what actually sells good premium titles. You need to invest some time on working on the story, not inside of the game, but maybe the story of the team. Beholder is a premium title that was published on Steam last year, and we published it on mobile platforms this year. It's a strategy simulator with a totalitarian setting, with a moral dilemma for the player, and some multiple endings. It's quite nice game, and it's not too expensive, so check it out on stores. A story behind it. This game was developed by indie Russian team. We built a community around that. We work with the original developer of the game, and the game sells pretty well in Russia, in Taiwan, and the sales numbers are actually good. And the third part of the sales comes from the United States. Probably it will get more popular along with political processes in there. A specific case for the free-to-play is actually publishers are really crazy about metrics. They want to see what kind of money your game is able to make. And in this case, you either go into the soft launch with a publisher, or you already tested it on some kind of audience. In this case, publishers will definitely ask you for the retention numbers, for the daily ARPU numbers, some the metrics for the paying users. Because the idea behind paid acquisition is it should be effective, should be profitable business. So we talk about the return on ad spending and trying to project the daily revenues into the lifetime value. And it should be more than the cost of acquisition, cost of acquiring the paying user. So how you can pick the right publisher for that? Of course, publishing is not a marriage. It's more like a date, but it can grow up into some sort of the relationships. So please understand what kind of publishers you're looking for, because you know what game you have. Study their portfolio, find the right contacts. It might be a LinkedIn or Facebook. Just find some common friends. personal connection on game shows actually works really well because we tend to trust people that we know personally. Ask around for the references because some publishers are well known, but nobody wants to work with them. Even if you write in the first email, just put some necessary info. Don't put the story behind it. I don't want to get into, I don't know, another variation of Tolkien reading your email. I just want to understand what kind of game is that and how we're going to sell it. Add some fact sheet, video trailer, maybe link to APK file, some info about the team. And tell us your goal. If you're looking for the funding, say, we're looking for the funding and we need as much money. Be patient, because again, we receive hundreds of emails and sometimes we're not able to respond quickly, but we actually expect you to respond quickly to our questions, because we want to make sure that when we start our relationships, you're going to be there for us, not just for a few other publishers. Do not start with NDA, please. I want to see the game first. That's an idea. Of course, if your game may be easily, reproduced, rebuild with the other team, working in a super casual segment, it may be mandatory. But still, we're trying to avoid that kind of mess, because going back and forth to the legal department without seeing what I'm fighting for is kind of get me into trouble. So a few tips for the developers, just to know your publisher, do the right thing, just prepare for the meeting, be patient, be persistent, write to the hundreds of them if you want to get noticed by at least one of them. And don't forget that even if your game fails, but you love the relationship with this publisher, there might be a next project you're going to be doing with them, and this will bring you to the success. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
There were some basic things, but...
Yeah, so unfortunately we don't have time for questions, but I will ask one question really fast. So what kind of games are you interested in terms of publishing, like creative mobile, genre?
Just everything you can define as a mid-core. Any free-to-play game with a good meta around it and targeted to mostly male demographics.
So mid-core, free-to-play, targeted to males, and which platforms?
iOS and Android.
iOS and Android.
If we talk about premium games, we actually will be ready to consider this as well, but in this case, we will be looking to the Steam and mobile platforms as well. We would be happy to exploit this IP into very different ways. Thank you.
All right, if anyone has games like that, feel free to come to Valentin and discuss the terms.
Yeah.
Be patient, be flexible, that's what I remembered. Thank you very much.
Publishing CM. CM means creative mobile, so just don't mess with the com.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
And the next speaker will be in just a couple of minutes. She will tell you about the Russian market and the reasons why you could bring your game to Russia. So we will start in 2 minutes. And after this session, there will be the ministry speaking right outside, so we'll go there all together and listen. Yes, ma'am, that's the correct answer. Russian market. Let's welcome her. Woo! She has a huge fan base.
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. My name is Irina. I'm from Moscow, Russia. And first of all, I really want to wake you guys up. Please raise your hands if you haven't been in Russia before. Okay. And raise your another hand if you want to go to Russia. Okay, Julia, I will invite you to White Nights conference. So my advice is not to go to Russia right now, but go in summer when the weather is good, because right now in Moscow it's snowing, just like in Stockholm. And that's why we are very glad to be here. It starts snowing in Moscow around October, and the last snow we see around April or May. And that's why I have a question for you. What do you think Russian people do when it snows 8 months in a row? Besides drinking vodka and hunting bears. Yeah, Julia is right. So basically, Russian people, they play games, especially when it's so cold on the streets and when there is nothing to do. And that's why I'm here to tell you about the Russian gaming market, about how you can approach this Russian gamer and what you can get from these people. So you probably wonder, why am I here to speak to you about the whole Russian market? And the reason is very simple, because I'm very happy to work for a company which is called Mail.ru, and it's very monopolistic company in Russia. It owns like 90% of the whole Russian market. So basically, we are very famous for our emailing service, which is just like Russian version of Gmail. And we are also famous for our social networks, which are vk.com and ok.ru. And they are just like Russian version of Facebook. So you can tell that Mail.ru is Gmail and Facebook all together, but for Russia. And we do have plenty of games, desktop and mobile. We have lots of internet services. So we have lots of food services, a bunch of stuff. And that's why we have a lot of data, which we can share with you and to tell you how to approach the market. Let's go. So today, you will learn 3 main things about the Russian market. And basically, you will become experts in the Russian market in 20 minutes. So first of all, you will understand the reasons to bring your game to Russia and why you have to be there. Second, you will understand what is the Russian gamer and what does it look like, what he wants in the game. And also you will know some success tips and some secrets how to bring your game to Russia. And first of all, I want you to look at these guys. So this is top revenue in Russia. This is top revenue of gaming companies. And you can see that 99% of them are not Russian. So it means that you don't have to be Russian, actually, to reach success in Russia. And you have a big chance, and I really want you guys to be among these guys next year when I come to Greece, probably. So let's go. I want you to remember 3 main tips about the Russian market. First of all, that the market is actually huge. It's very, very big, just like the country itself. You can reach over 70 million mobile users, and that's basically the audience for your mobile games. It's number 5 market by app installs in the world, and that means that people download a lot, and especially that they download a lot of games. The second thing I want you to remember is that this market is much less competitive than any other market almost, than United States, than Japan, than China. And that's why it will be very easy to test the market. That's the third reason to enter. So basically, what you need to do is to localize your application. And for some reason, to localize from English to Russian is 3 times cheaper than to localize from English to any other language. And it can cost you like several hundreds of bucks just to localize your game, especially if it's a casual game. And also, to do marketing in Russia, you need to know just one main partner, and fortunately that's us, who will introduce you to everyone, who will help you with localization partners, who will help you with marketing and lots of stuff. And now we are going to the games. So basically, there are two main things that you need to know about games in Russia. First of all is that gaming is #1 category by downloads. It means that people download games more than any other category. Hi guys, please enter. And the second thing is that gaming is #2 category by retention. Raise your hand if you can see clearly what is the #1 category by retention. Okay. What is it? Can someone tell? Social networks, right. So basically people spend most of the time in social networks in Russia and in games in Russia. And these are the most famous genres there. And now I want you to remember the main things about the Russian gaming audience. As I said, we do have lots of information about games, and we do have our gaming department, which is MyCom, and we do have Mail.ru Games too. And that's why we did a huge research about the Russian gaming, and we asked people what do they actually look for in the game and what do they search for in the game. And actually, we found out some basic stuff. So they are very similar to any other gamers. They also look for the game to be with a good graphics, the game not to wait a lot and not to kill the battery. The main difference of Russian gamer from any other gamer is that the Russian gamer wants the game to be translated to Russian. And I'll be back with this more clearly later because there is a lot to tell here. And that's my favorite part, actually. So we divided Russian gamers into 4 main groups. And we asked them, what are they really excited about in the game? Like, what do they appreciate the game the most? And the first big group were people who actually were looking for immersion in the game. So these were the people who wanted to dive into the game, to feel part of it. And most of them, they preferred to play some strategy games and some RPG games. So this is one of the most popular genres in Russia. The second big group were people who were looking for control. So they wanted to set up the game for themselves. They wanted to plan the game and how the game goes. And they didn't really care what game to play. They just wanted to control everything. And most of these people, they were high-level executives. They were some senior managers in companies. So you know how to attract these people. Just give them something to control in the game. And the third big group were just people who enjoyed the process. So they liked to pass mission by mission. They liked to upgrade the character and so on. And what do you think, what was the most favorite genre among these people? Raise your hands if you know. It's casual, yeah. So it's casual and it's match 3. So basically, they prefer to play casual, match-3 game, and some puzzle games, and they enjoyed it the most just because of the process. And the last group of people were people who were looking for achievements, and that's my favorite slide. So they're not people who are looking for naked guys in the game, but people who were looking for achievement, and they wanted to upgrade the character too. They wanted to win something. They wanted to feel that they are winning. And one of the most famous genres for them was racing game and some gambling game. So they played it the most. And when you think about entering Russian market, you can consider this information. So you can know that RPG and casual games and strategy games and racing games would be among one of the most popular in Russia among the Russian gamers. And now, when you know all of that, you probably need to know some success tips. So if you know some basic information about the market, how actually to enter the market, what you need to do to get the attention of the Russian audience. And the first thing you need to do is basically to analyze the market share. So one of the biggest mistakes global companies do when they come to the Russian market is doing the same that they do everywhere else. I was talking to my friend from Machine Zone several years ago, and he was like, well, I went to the Russian market with my game, we promoted with Facebook, and you know, Russian market is so small. And I was like, okay, that's clear. Because Facebook is very, very small in Russia, and local social networks are much bigger. And in our case, it's not like China where Facebook is forbidden, but people just prefer to use local social networks, and people prefer to use vk.com and ok.ru. So in 5 minutes, I will have this small competition with you guys, and you will win a Matryoshka doll. So it's right here. You probably wonder why it's staying here. So you will win a Matryoshka doll, which basically represents the structure of the Russian market, where Facebook there is very small and it's crying. So the second thing that you need to do is about the localization. So as I said, localization is very important, and unfortunately, only 7% of Russian people speak English. And it looks like half of these people are here at this conference, like me and Julia and a bunch of other guys. So if you want to get more than 7% of Russian people, then please localize your game. In the same time, it's not always that important. For example, if you do have some casual game or some match 3 game or puzzle game which doesn't have a lot of text and a lot of cultural background there, then it's not then that important to localize it. But if it's some Japanese game with a strange cultural background, then please localize it. The third thing I want you to remember is about the operation systems. So in Russia, there are 2 main stores. It's Google Play and Apple Store. And you need to remember that Google Play is 3 times bigger, almost 4 times bigger, actually, than Apple Store in Russia. So raise your hand, guys, who of you have your game on Google Play? OK, like half of you. And on Apple Store? Less. So both of you have to bring your game to Russia. But in Google Play, you will get several times more millions of users than in Apple Store. So just consider this information. The next thing I want you to remember is about the marketing. So if you decide to promote in Russia, then you have different options. Raise your hands how many of you know what Facebook ads is. OK, like 90% of you. So we in Mail.ru, we have something very similar to Facebook ads. It's a tool called My Target. And basically, it's the same that Facebook ads, but for our local social networks, which are 10 times bigger than Facebook. And the formats are the same. All the tools are the same. And that's why we know a lot of information about marketing and about user acquisition. That's why we know the costs of the install in Russia. And I want to ask you not to overpay. So when you come to the Russian market, and if you do any user acquisition, know that the relevant CPI is around $1. It may be a little bit more expensive for some RPG games, or it may be a little bit cheaper for some casual games, but on average, it's around $1. And I want you to see the case study. So we have a case study of this Chinese developer who entered the Russian market not long ago. And they have very good results for RPG game, because you can see that the average CPI that they got is around $1. And these guys, they did a lot. They experimented a lot with different targetings. They experimented a lot with audience. They experimented a lot with creatives. And now, I want to play my favorite game with you. So this game is called the CTR Battle. And there are two banners which you can look at. And one of them attracted much more attention of the audience than another. So on one of them, the audience clicked much more when they saw it in the newsfeed of social networks. Raise your hands if you think that the first one was more popular. Yeah. OK.
Was it a relevant audience that clicked on the banner?
Yes.
So
yes,
are we speaking about males, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was like the same audience. Yeah.
First.
Okay. And raise your hands if you think it's the second. Okay. So most of you think it's the first.
Probably it's the wrong answer.
Yeah, it is. I'm super surprised. Yeah, because always all the guys in the conference, they get it straight away. So it is the second, but I don't want to tell you the right answer. I want you to tell me the right answer, why it's the second. And the one who gives me the right answer will get the Matryoshka doll. So tell me, why do you think Russian people liked the second much, much more?
We have an answer.
Because they see the flowers they don't have in Russia, the sunshine, the yellow color.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
We have a winner.
You're so right. Yeah, yeah. So the explanation is super easy. The explanation is that when they promoted this game in Russia, it was autumn. Can you imagine the Russian autumn?
Snowing, you mentioned it in the beginning.
Yeah, it was gray and it was depressive and everyone was sad and no one wanted to look at the banners and to click on banners which had some gray colors there. And that's why people liked to click on everything which was red and yellow and green and colorful, and also because of the flowers. Also because these flowers are very famous in Russia. Yay! Yeah. So I do have another case study just to show you not only the CPI price, but also the ROI, like how people get money out of the Russian users. And you can see that in this case, the CPI was more than the average. It was bigger than the average, around $2. But in the same time, you can see that the ROI is 272%. So these guys, they didn't care about CPI at all, as long as the ROI is so good. And they also experimented a lot. That's one of the success tips that everyone will tell you, including us and Facebook and Google. They did a lot of creatives. And you can see that they did some absolutely crazy creative. So there is a fat guy shooting in a donut. So Russian people like this kind of stuff, and if you want to attract this audience, don't be afraid to be crazy, and don't be afraid to think out of the box. And wow, that was very quick. So the summary, I really want you to remember these things when you come to the Russian market and when you consider which will be the next big market for you. The first one is that the market is really very, very big. It has around 70 million mobile users, and this is the audience for you. These are the people who would love to see your game and to play your game. The next thing that I want you to remember is that this market is actually much less competitive than most of the other markets. So it will be much cheaper for you to promote there. It will be much cheaper for you to get the audience and doing basically everything. Another thing I want you to remember is that localization is super important, but in the same time, you don't need to spend much money to localize, because localizing from English to Russian, for some reason, is 3 times cheaper than localizing from English to any other language. And another thing I want you to remember is about monetization. So most of the people in Russia, most of the developers and publishers, they use in-app purchases. But also, we do have our service for monetization, and you can monetize your games, especially if it's some puzzle games or some casual games. You can monetize them with ads, and that's absolutely OK. That works very well as in any other country. And I look forward to seeing you in Russia when it's very, very sunny there and when it's good weather. So please don't come in winter.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so I hope to see everybody at the White Nights Conference in June in St. Petersburg. Sometimes it is sunny. Well, we order the weather beforehand. So today it's my thing. I not only ask questions to speakers, I also answer them. Yeah,
I appreciate it a lot. You're the
it's my
best organizer ever. Yeah.
All right, so you had this slide about Google Play and App Store, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, Google Play is bigger. Do you know anything about the revenue? I do.
Well, of course, yes, I can tell you, and I think it's more or less evident that in Apple Store the revenue will be bigger than in Google Play. But in the same time, it really depends. I saw situations when even in Google Play, first of all, because of the number of users, because you get lots of cheap installs, you can get installs in Russia for like 30 cents for a game, being a big gaming company from United States, not to mention the game. Yeah. So you can pay 30 cents for an install, and that's why your revenue will be very big.
I absolutely agree, and I just have a great number on our own example with the casual match 3 game. So audience on Google Play, like on Android, was a few times bigger, right? But we got the same amount of money from Google Play and App Store having different amount of audience. So it's worth being on both platforms. But yes, Russia is in top 3 countries in terms of downloads on Google Play. So of course, Android is a must.
Yeah. So the right advice would sound like, don't ignore Android, but also don't ignore iOS. Don't ignore any platform.
All right, do we have any questions from you guys? Okay, so thank you for a nice presentation. If you have more questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And I guess this is it for the lecture program of the Athens Games Festival. Thank you very much for being here until the very last lecture. And now I'd like to invite you to go outside where there will be a closing speech made by Nikos Papas, who's a minister of digital policy, telecommunication and media in Greece. Super important person. Let's go listen to him. Thank you.